At the end of the episode, after the closing music, there's some explicit content. My dad would never let me listen to this. The guys are only having fun. It is the guys relaxing and letting go. Make sure your kids are in bed or not with you while listening. If you are easily offended, don't listen past the closing music. Thanks for your support of Law Abiding Biker Podcast.
All right, guys, should we do an episode or something here? What do you think?
Let's hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it.
And now, straight from the Law Abiding Biker Media Studio,
out of sunny Yakima, Washington,
we bring you another episode of the
#1 listen to motorcycle podcast.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
We're in your head.
He's in my head.
Oh, feel it.
Echoing.
Here we go. I'm going to bang my head right here. Last time me and Jake were in here, I was hitting my headphones on the microphone. I knocked my earphones off. Oh, that is right. Welcome back, you freaky deaky bikeaholics.
Yeah.
This is the podcast for the motorcycle majority, the big MM, also known as the
99%ers
in stereo. Hear it no other place. That's right. By simply listening to this podcast, guys, by hanging with us right now, you are, that's right, know it, you are part of what we call the biker revolution. Bigger than any time in history, the 99%, the motorcycle majority, were taken over. That's right, the motorcycle scene. We have just one question for y'all.
What are you waiting for? Mount up, yo.
Let us take you
On a wild ride.
on another wild-ass ride. Thanks, guys, for being with us. Of course, Ryan Erlacher here, your host of the Law Abiding Biker Podcast and your high-tech redneck in the house for me. Jake freaking Justice. And also, we got the man, the myth, the legend.
Because I ain't tripping.
Big Daddy Kane in the house. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us again. Thank you.
Guess I should get some freaking show notes up here and see what we're doing here today. And that was the most likely, as we progress, the most immature pre-podcast little ditty we've ever done. But it was funny. No, Big Daddy's on the last episode was funny shit too.
It was funnier.
That was funny because we were crying. I was crying on here, but you two were in it. That honestly, guys, that particular intro had nothing to do with nothing about motorcycles. Just simply, we pulled that out of our arse. And, we've got a lot of good feedback on some of the little skits and the poems and the stupid shit we do to open an episode. So we're just going to keep doing stupid shit and hope people like it. So we've actually got no negative feedback on that. So we try to show you our humorous side because we're just a bunch of guys here in the studio, honestly, drinking a few Frosties and riding motorcycles and having a good time and sharing it with people all over the world. Amazing what you can do right from the bonus room, the studio right here in my very own home that we can reach worldwide. And just the feedback that we've been getting and all the, Patreons and the followers and all the emails and all that kind of stuff. So pretty amazing, huh? What do you guys think?
Yeah, the fact
here?
that we're still here.
You're on
and some of our people that we started this podcast out with are gone means one thing to me, that people are liking it and they love it, and we love hearing that you love it.
Keeps us going, keeps us doing the thing. We're just a bunch of guys sitting here BSing. Of course, we're doing it in an organized fashion. We got show notes, and Big Daddy did the last show. One of the podcasts, he organized that whole thing and did so we're trying to do it in an organized fashion aside from the me so horny. But, besides that, we do try to do topics that people are interested in. And in fact, this particular episode comes from, and we talk about it, guys. We don't want to beat a dead horse, although we're not against beating a dead horse.
Oof. That was racy right there.
Better to beat one than to be one.
That is right. We don't mind, beating a dead horse, but that is the patron guys. And if you want to get involved, we strongly encourage it. It helps give us vision into the future. And that's exactly where this post came from. That is the reason, the foundation, the purpose, I have no other words.
It's this simple, y'all. This private page, that if you become a patron,
The Facebook private group
will open up more opportunities to you to just chat, to hear about motorcycles, whether it be parts, whether it be rides, whether it be news articles. I'm telling you, get on board, because this came from Dar Chang, who posted posted a story down in LA, and said this would be an awesome topic for you guys to talk about helmets and safety wear. And because we are about everything about protecting you, we're about the 99%, we decided to go for it.
Yep. Dar Chang, been a long-time supporter.
You will
Great guy.
Not only learn, but save money.
Oh, yeah. Right on. Exactly. Totally. Good call, Jake. And the only way to get in that private Facebook group is to head over to lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon, Patreon, and pledge a certain amount. The details are over there. And if you pledge at that certain level, then you get access to that private Facebook group. That's right. No risk to you. You can set a monthly cap. So basically you can say, I'll donate this X amount per piece of content, but I don't want to go over this for my monthly budget. And that protects you. All right. And so Dar Chang, very involved over there. Big Daddy's a moderator over there. Jakey's in there. And actually with the private Facebook group, it doesn't matter. It's different than an open public. You kind of, everybody posts their own name, even though we are in charge of the group. It's pretty much, there's not a lot of moderating. The only authorities we have is to remove people and add people and stuff like that. But other than that, it's the real deal. And if we've said it before, we'll say it again. It's the best forum, guys. It's better than any forum you can find on the internet, because you can search right in there in the Facebook group, and you can search for any topic. You can go in there and search for this, helmet saves motorcycle, or helmets, and you can find every conversation that was ever discussed and all the threads right in there, right in a private Facebook group. And you can get the latest and greatest on that kind of stuff. So a lot of people don't realize that about Facebook groups. That's why we use it. And the other thing is, you know who is giving you the information. You don't have frickin' whatever it would be, Harley v Twin Head, Motorhead 13 bullcrap forum guy that's telling you something. You have no idea who he is. These are real people. You can get and see their pictures and their profile. And it just makes it so much more real than any random motorcycle forums on there. And it's not link bait. There's not a bunch of commercials and links and
no goddamn pop-ups.
Yeah, freaking pop-ups like you do in forums. That's all. If you guys don't know, that's how those forums make money, and that's fine. And if any of you are running forums out there or moderators, we're not talking bad about you. I just think there's better ways these days, and this is our way, because lots of people ask us, you should start a forum. You know what? I don't want to start a forum because they're clunky and junky, and I don't like how they run, and I want it to be super easy, and I don't want people to be able to talk to us and know who's behind the forum. How many forums do you actually know who's behind it? You've been on a lot of forums. Tell me.
Well,
how do you even know who owns that?
They tell you who the moderator is and the settings, and that's about it. But here's what I'm going to tell you all about this Facebook group. It's a gentleman's and respectable ladies type environment. There is nothing,
because your name's behind it, your real identity
behind it. But I say you're a gentleman because these people all truly care about what people are posting. They care. When they read it, they care about what you're saying. This isn't like where you just go on to some strange deal and you say, "Hey, I think V-Rods suck."
Right.
People
and
could do that,
hide.
but see, these people that are in this group
are there
literally,
yes.
They want to be there. They want to say what they want to say, and they want to hear what people have to say. And even when there has been little disagreements about, and there isn't arguments, trust me, but when there's been little differences of opinion, it's always like, I never thought of that.
It's respected.
I
agree to disagree, but it's
intelligent comments versus just trying to make people.
Did you use a big word there?
He did.
Yeah.
That's the former teacher in him. He's using these big words.
Mm-hmm.
God, you're fucking dumb, dude.
That's towards me.
Jake's never going to come
towards me. That's towards me.
Jake's never going to come for another podcast. I don't know why I play that when because you're a very intelligent guy.
The next time I don't care.
Yeah, I'm going to tell y'all, you're going to love this group. Get in and can. Even on the public one, go on there and ask your questions, but understand the private one, Those people, like literally, we posted that we were going to be back in Milwaukee. Remember that?
Yep.
And instantaneously, they were telling Law Dog and I, hey, we're going to meet you there. We want to buy you lunch. They picked our brains about a few things about bikes. Where else does that happen?
Right.
It happens in our community, the 99% law-abiding biker community.
That's sweet and well said. And LD is actually hooking up our next summer ride. We're not going to announce where that's at yet, but he's got a patron right in that group that he's working with. And yeah, it's just it's personal. Forums are so impersonal. And I just wanted to explain that. I don't want to bore you guys, but really, if you don't understand Facebook groups, that's why we did it. And that's why we're doing it in Facebook. That's why we're doing it via, Patron. You want to be there. You pay a small amount to be there. And, and like Rick says, Big Daddy, hey, if there's a disagreement, it's still respected. It's agree to disagree, or whatever. But I have learned from these guys, and they're so very much. It's amazing. And again, the searchability factor and all that kind of stuff. And the ability to just reach out to who you want and I like to know who I'm talking to.
It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Don't be scared. Go check it out.
That's right. And
check out the Patreon page.
The cool thing is you see some guys hooking up there, especially some of the Canadians up north. You actually see them hooking up and start texting each other, or commenting, hey, are you going to ride? And hey, we should meet sometime. And they're actually making not just online contact, they're actually making personal, physical, meeting in person out of becoming involved in this community. That excites me. Well, Jake,
I got to Sturgis the day after you left, but you were part of that whole Patreon group that was in Sturgis.
Right.
Tell them about the fact that these strangers are coming from all over. They don't know each other, but the one love they had was motorcycles, regardless of whether it was European, Asian import, or American. And they were working together on bikes and stuff. Tell us about that, why it's important to be more than just, take it more than just us, hey, this ain't about us just making a few bucks off this Patreon deal. It's literally, yes, it keeps our fuel tank filled and keeps us going, but tell them about what you experienced.
We had I think we've talked about it before. We had a meetup one of the nights where there was a barbecue for the patrons to come over.
Private at the Sturgis.
Right, where we were staying, and several showed up. It was a lot of fun. We had food, had a few beers together, talked bikes, talked everything, really. Even a few people had their wives with them, and they met from other parts of the country and had a great time. And we even had one guy whose bike had something that had to get replaced on it. I think it might have been a clip or something just on the rear trunk, but it was broken to a point where just the regular fix wasn't good. And one of the patrons came in. They worked together and got it figured out in about 30 minutes. And that was interesting to see people just get together and do that. And they just all had motorcycles in common. Definitely. And other things, but yeah.
Get involved, guys. All right, enough said about that. Great, Jake. Great, BD Kane. Appreciate it, buddy. Today's episode is all about, and this again was from Dar Chang. It's an article we're going to go over. And it was, there's a lot of confusion out there. And honestly, it took me a while, but I probably educated myself about 2 years ago on this. Before that, a helmet was a helmet to me. And you would expect, and jump in anytime you guys want on this, but you would expect, and I think that was a little ignorance on my part back in the day, and I just expected that if it had a DOT stamp, that it went through some sort of rigorous, very, very closely modified testing by the DOT here in the United States, by Department of Transportation. And I assume that all helmets were generally the same. If it had a DOT sticker, it had to meet, some massive standard like seat belts and cars and all that kind of stuff. We've come to find out different. So today's episode, at the very end, we will get to our opinions. I want to be very, just so we set up the scene here for you two, I want to be very careful about getting into, at this point, we'll save that for the end. We are going to give you our opinions on our personal opinions on whether we agree, disagree, why on helmet laws. That's not what this beginning of this episode is about. We'll get to that at the end, and we'll tell you what we personally believe, right, wrong, or different. We're human beings, and we're gonna tell you what we feel like. Even though we're Leos, we'll tell you what we feel about certain things. But this episode, this first part, we're going to break it down. There's 3 ratings: Department of Transportation, there's ECE, you'll hear us talk about. We'll break this down for you. And then there's SNELL ratings. And those are the 3 major worldwide ratings for helmets. You'll hear us talk about different standards and what those mean if you see that on the back of your helmet. And we're probably going to break open some myths. If you've never really researched this subject, and I'm not an expert in it, there's so much more than we're going to cover in this episode than we can cover. And I don't know everything, but I do know the basics. And we can definitely break it down in a, like we do with all our videos and all our podcasts. We try to break it down and break through the nonsense into something that's understandable and applicable to you as an everyday biker out there, shopping for helmets and seeing all the different helmets and that kind of stuff. All right. Was that a good setup, guys? Does that lay the foundation for what we're doing here?
Yeah. I mean, DOT, ECE, SNELL, and now, of course, now they've got the latest one, beyond SNELL. Over in Europe, they're now considering even above the ECE, just like how SNELL's above DOT. So
right. And I didn't know that.
No, but it's just coming on, and I learned that from one of our affiliate companies, Revzilla. Helmets 101. So,
and if you guys want to get anything and help us out, no additional cost to you. That's right, lawabidingbiker.com/Revzilla, and you can purchase stuff over there. We get a small kickback. Again, like I say, no additional cost to you. It just helps us out. Bookmark that, lawabidingbiker.com/Revzilla. And just have it as your Revzilla. Once you bookmark it as that link, every time you purchase something from them, you'll help us out. So good call, Big Daddy. All right. So I don't, you know what? I've been talking a lot. Do you guys want to break into this?
Well, let's talk about the incident first. Let's talk about Dar's.
Good call.
He sent us a news article from CBS Los Angeles, and it was a story about a gentleman who was on his motorcycle and had a car swerve in front of him. And to avoid, he ended up swerving. He lost control of the bike. And his account is basically, I'm on the ground. I see I believe it was like a trash truck or anything. Let's just say commercial truck coming at me. And I'm thinking, that's it. It's coming at my head. I'm about ready to be a pumpkin getting squashed by 5 teenagers who have had a little bit too much chocolate for the night. And he ended up, the sugar, Jake. Oh. I know you don't eat candy because you're running now. So
he just drinks beer.
I was thinking the beer, maybe.
Low calorie beer.
But the guy ends up surviving. And we all know that when you go in there and if you're a Harley guy or you're a cruiser guy, you buy half helmet, 3/4, whatever it is. This guy had a full-on, he had a full face, SNELL certified, if I remember right, SNELL certified race type helmet, which are going to cost you a bunch of money. But in this case, it cost him his melon, or it saved him his melon.
Right. Good call. It was Riverside, Austin Easley. Yeah, that's right. And we won't read the whole article, but I'll just breeze through it here. Was riding his motorcycle, and Easley was on his daily commute, 91 freeway in Orange County, cruising in the space between the far left carpool lane and the fast lane immediately to the right. Apparently a car suddenly swerved directly in front of him. We've seen that before, right?
Yes,
we have.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that just outside of Rapid City, in fact, on a trip this year. Yeah.
You saw that, a car swerve outside of Rapid City?
Yeah, when I was riding back there, and it was about 9:00 at night, coming into Rapid City to meet you guys.
Is that what the guy said?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Swerved right in front of me. And me and Michael just about shit bricks, and it was raining and slammed on, and I was thinking, ooh. So it does happen, even when you don't expect it.
Well, this car swerved, and then he swerved his bike to the right, lost control, and was tossed onto the freeway directly in the path of a construction truck. He thought his life was over. Quote, I saw the tire coming at my head, he said. Quote, I thought it was going to smash my head. I thought that was it. To his surprise, his matte black, I don't know why the news has to tell it's matte black. Don't you love that? Frick, I hate how news writers write. To his surprise,
extraneous details.
His matte black helmet. Does it matter if it was frickin' red? or matte black.
Why don't they just say he also had a leather vest on that looked like SOA?
Right.
His bike had a windshield fairing on the front.
You know what I mean? I mean, why do they? I hate news writers. Anyways, which now sports a long crack and an array of scratches, protecting him from what seemed to be a certain death. All right. As he laid stunned on the freeway, the driver of the truck and the passing couple stopped. They make sure, but he wouldn't get hit again. Okay, cool. That wasn't the end of his terror. He still wasn't sure the extent of his injuries and whether he would survive. Quote, I didn't know if I was going to live or die as I was lying there waiting for the ambulance, he said. He took him to the hospital. He found to have suffered a broken shoulder, blade, broken arm, minor concussion, let's key in on that, minor concussion after his head got ran over, and other cuts and bruises, but no head trauma. He was eventually released from the hospital back to his family later that very same day. Quote, I'm so grateful he's alive and with us, unquote, Father James Easley said. The Easleys said they were now dealing with substantial medical bills and have set up a GoFundMe account in the hopes of getting some help with those expenses. So that's the story that Dar Chang sent us, and I did not push play on that damn video. All right. So let's go over, now that we've set the scene up, and that's where, this kind of keyed it. It's been on the list to do this episode, but that really keyed me that, yeah, you know what? It's a good time. It's a good time to go ahead and do that. So, all right. Who wants to set up the first? There's 3 standards. Let me start by that. This is what we're going to go over, guys. The 3 standards, DOT, SNELL, and ECE. Let's break it down. Do you want to break the first one down, Jake?
Yeah, I can start off with basically the DOT, Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. This is a U.S. thing mainly, known as a DOT, Department of Transportation. It was first started in 1974 and has been updated. All U.S. helmets to be legal in the states that require helmet wearing to be used on public highways. It states that they have that DOT sticker and that it's been done. But we're saying, I was talking to Big Daddy about it earlier, it's a trust-based thing. The DOT themselves...
Hang on. Let me stop you there. Did you say you were talking about a podcast topic before you got on the mic? If it's good enough to talk about, it's good enough to record, Jake.
All right.
Go ahead. I know how Big Daddy, you got to shut him up all the time. He tries to talk about episodes before, and we want to talk about it real now.
Real time.
You don't want to get ideas in your head. Go ahead.
Well, it's a trust-based system. Really, the DOT doesn't actually test the helmets themselves very often. They rely on the manufacturers and outside contractors to do the testing and the reports of findings to them.
Isn't that crazy?
Right.
Well,
I don't think a lot of bikers know that.
To it, though.
Yeah?
Because DOT, even though they're often considered the most basic of testing, their actual testing when they do test is very thorough. So it's a good test. The Anvil test is good,
right?
But it's trust-based.
We'll talk about the Anvil
manufacturers.
test in a minute because most people don't know what that means.
But they do have very strict requirements regarding the field of vision, the retention, and stuff like that.
Right. They don't have, like you're saying, they do random tests. So when they actually go through and, I guess, check on these guys and do their due diligence, they do good tests, and sometimes they'll catch them. And I guess it's probably not worth it to those manufacturers to not do it right, because if they get busted, they're probably not going to be.
So what you're saying to me, Jake, in a nutshell, is manufacturers within the United States, so, Schuberth and Shuey and Bell and all these other companies produce these helmets in mass quantities. They are trusted to test those helmets government require, or whatever. They have a company that they subcontract. Yeah. They have a list of the DOT requirements. They test them. They're trusted to test them. And then without any government intervention, they're able to put those helmets out to distributors and have riders wear them.
That's the way I understand it, right?
Okay.
But
they test basically to say, here's the major test. The manufacturers are just like the car manufacturers, do their own test, and they meet the certain standards. The interesting thing is here that I think that is actually kind of interesting is that one of the tests that they do, and I already know I'm going to get the donkey sound here, is penetration protection.
Oh, that's just ridiculous. How do we go from testing helmets to donkey sounds around here.
Well, you never know when a sharp object's going to get ready to go through there. So they do test for the penetration protection.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the first things I heard, that when they first developed motorcycle helmets, that was the main protection they had more than impact.
What's that?
Was the penetration. Keeping you from getting something stuck in your head.
So say that again, though. I missed that. When you're saying when they first started doing that?
In researching this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when initially motorcycle helmets were developed, they didn't have the technology they do now. And initially it was a lot more preventing those penetration injuries. And then the
penetration is ridiculous. Okay, stop.
And then it developed into more of the impact stuff, protection there.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't even read that tidbit. That's why I like sending you guys the notes, because you do your own independent research. So that's good. Jake did his independent research last night. Yep, the penetration test. Just okay. Going nowhere with that. Yeah, no, go ahead, Big Daddy. You had something else that you were going to read? Or apparently not.
Well, he covered it so well, because the fact is that the DOT stuff, it is a situation where these manufacturers, a lot of them outside of the country, other than there are a few American companies, and to get that DOT, they just have to meet those standards and prove. It's a very thorough process. They have to actually prove that their helmets can go through that and show the testing standards. So don't think it's just like anything. They're not testing every single helmet. They're testing they're not testing every single Mercedes or every single Harley Davidson in an accident.
True.
Random sample.
But people, so then a lot of people think it's the most basic of tests, that it's not as good as Snell or Sharp or ECE, but that's actually not true. They actually have quite a bit of thorough testing.
Good call. And so basically they're putting them out to the market. They're testing them themselves, right, Jakey and BD, and then at any time the government can randomly test those helmets in circulation to make sure that, right, that's a safeguard. Is that the way I understand it? That's a safeguard to say, okay, you put them out, you said they're okay, Shoeworth, now let us pull some samples and we will test a few helmets here and there to make sure that you're not fudging us. And so
and the DOT is given the standards they expect them to meet. And so they better be meeting those in their tests when they do the randoms. Right.
Okay, good. And do you want to go around? So that's good. Anything else to say about that besides let's go through the three? Because you mentioned it. You mentioned Anvil. We need to discuss some of what the 3 DO tests. And actually, I'll say that a lot of these tests, these 3 tests we're going to talk about, are the same thing Snell and ECE uses, maybe a little bit more in depth, or they drop things from higher levels. But these are kind of, you'll want to take this with you, this little tidbit through the rest of the episode, because these are some of the major. We're going to talk about 3 of the main tests. You want to handle that, BD Kane?
Yeah. I mean, well, first of all, everybody should know that helmets, generally they can attempt to pass 1, 2, or even 3 standards. So a manufacturer can say, well, we're just going to sell this in the US, so we're just going to do the DOT standard. Or they can say, well, I want to do DOT and Snell or DOT and ECE. It just depends what they want to do. You'll find that even on the back of most helmets in America, it'll have the DOT big, but then in small print underneath it, it might have ECE or Snell.
Mine does, my Shoeworth. Not a lot have ECE. It's pretty, believe it or not, unless you're talking about the big names, Shoei and Shoeworth and those kind of guys will do the ECE, but all your Bell and stuff, dude, they just kind of do the minimum standards.
Yeah, when you get into like Snell and Sharp testing, which is the new one that we'll talk about at the end about the new European stuff, those are the guys that are riding these bikes that, the crotch rockets type deals where they want their race helmets and they're tested to an additional standard. But
so let's just talk about the 3 tests, not the 3 standards, but the 3 tests. We're talking about DOT, and this is the 3 tests, the 3 tests used to make sure they're DOT compliant.
Yeah. So you got impact, of course.
Attenuation test is what they call it. Impact attenuation.
Yeah.
And if you don't define that for the audience.
Well, basically, it's the physics of the property itself and an energy. So basically, if you're not a guy that's a scientific kind of guy, he's basically, they're turning around and they're measuring the impact and what that impact has and how does that helmet resist to it.
Right. Kind of how like a car
on
folds.
any one occurrence or any type deal. Where that comes into interesting is when we get into the anvil test, because the anvil is obviously a pointed impact. So how will it respond to a certain area versus another area? So yeah, it kind of talks about the distance. It has a whole different side of it where it's talking in, what is the distance from the source?
Basically, how much shock can it absorb and how does it absorb it? Right?
Picture it like this. If you're watching a channel, science channel, and they're taking a hammer to something and they're measuring the blood spatter or something that we deal with in our jobs, that's what they're doing. They're measuring what that impact is and how much it can take.
Right. Good call. All right. So the next test. So the first one is impact attenuation. And what's the number 2 test?
Well, the next one they got is the
Sorry, did I do all the tests?
You lowered me down.
Oh,
there.
right here. Sorry.
So then we have the penetration test.
Oh God.
And that's basically an object
dropped onto a stationary helmet.
Dropped onto the stationary helmet.
So usually they put the helmet, I looked up some videos, if you put the helmet down, they have a big thing and they actually drop it onto the helmet. It's like a spear. And it's not like a major sharp spear, but it's got a fairly pointed and blunt and it's taken up to a certain level and they push a button and you hear the alarm sound and it drops through a tube and just basically punches the helmet right in a very kind of like a punch, basically like a steel punch.
Yeah, they use a solid head-shaped device. They call it a head form. And they basically secure it in the helmet and then it has the sensors in it that they need in order for the testing.
In the helmet?
Right. And that senses how much energy is being portrayed upon that. And with that, it's very simple. They put it in the jig and then they drop the pointed object onto it. So
that is the penetration test. So far we've covered the impact attenuation, the penetration test, and what's the last one? Jake, you want to cover that?
The last one is a retention system test, and that's basically going to be testing how well the chin straps or D-rings that maintain the helmet's position on the head when it gets under tension, like the forces you would see in a crash.
Right. Because I have seen in my Leo job crashes so bad and chin straps not properly done that the helmets come off the individual. So
the key
very important
helmet,
test.
The key to any helmet though, Ryan, what listeners got to know is the fact that you can have the most expensive helmet on the market, but if it is not fit correctly and it will do you no good. Too loose, it was not going to help you. Good
call. It's true. Test after test, you really need to be sizing your helmets, guys, if you're a helmet guy. And again, we're not going to get into those issues, but if you're looking for protection and you're going to actually spend the dough on a helmet, a good helmet, as many of you know, I run several different helmets, but I'm running the Schuberth C3 and I did a complete video on that, lawabidingbiker.com/Schuberth C3. It's a modular helmet, but it's ECE and DOT rated. And the nice thing about that Schuberth helmet is that it has extra chin strap. It actually is one of the only helmets that goes up behind the neckline and under your jawline. It has a whole another system. And they found that during head roll in an accident that it actually maintains it and maintains the helmet position much better than just a chin strap. So it's got both. Makes it a little hard to get the liner out to clean, but I'm willing to deal with that.
One of the things that Justice was talking about the testing in my notes here that I did, and he hit it very well here. But understand that Department of Transportation is not doing these tests. They're hiring independent contractors that go out and test. And the quote is they're basically randomly testing helmets with the hope of catching bad lids.
Right. Yep. Correct.
Just like the USDA when they don't test every piece of meat that comes out,
And food inspectors, they're only randomly inspecting certain food joints, liquor control, everybody, dude. It's pretty random. It's just interesting, I guess maybe I'm ignorant, but as of, many, many years ago, 5 at least plus, I guess I researched this about 2 years ago, I just assumed that it was a lot. And I'm not saying it's unsafe. I'm just saying DOT is probably the minimum standard worldwide. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's still good.
It's the most basic of, but they're high quality. But I mean, the idea to me is it's kind of like random drug testing in professional sports.
Right.
You're saying you're going to comply with this for the fear of getting caught that you don't comply. But we can all say, ask all the guys that were using steroids in baseball and how that worked. I mean, there are some
I didn't know
helmets out there
professional
that
athletes did that.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Imagine.
There's some helmets that are junk, and there's some that are very good. And sometimes it boils down to what you pay for. It just depends what you're riding and what you're going to be using it for.
Yep. And you got to understand, too, guys, a good point I'll bring up there, Big Daddy, is just because you're getting a DOT helmet and it's DOT stamped with a sticker doesn't mean that it's sitting right next to another DOT stamped helmet, that one is not better. They're not all the same standard. It's basically meeting the minimum requirements. So there's lots of helmets with DOT, but the one over here is 10 times as strong as this one. It's just that there's no DOT level. So there's not like, oh, this is a DOT 1 and this is a DOT level 10. Unfortunately, a DOT is a DOT. So you have to do your own research and find out what their testing was. It's going to be the same test, but this helmet may take the particular penetration test at 4 feet, and the other DOT helmet, you may be able to take it up to 50 feet and drop it, and it's fine. So don't think that all DOT helmets are the same. They're simply not. In fact, Cuz is running one right now, and not, we bust his balls about it, but it's the epitome of the most minimal standard DOT, because it just made it so it could get a frickin' DOT sticker is because I've looked at it and I've looked at the EPS inside the lining of it and stuff, and it's ridiculous, but it made the DOT test. So just be aware of that. So once they meet all those standards per their own tests, then they can do this little function here. And this is what you guys will see on helmets. You want to cover this, one of you?
Yeah. Well, once they meet all the tests, they can obviously put the sticker. We're not talking about at the swap and cycle meets, the little white circle with black DOT on it.
The novelty helmets.
Yeah.
That's a federal violation, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't get into that, guys.
But they can then do that, and they have to legitimately label it. It has to be a permanent label, so the sticker has to be enough. Now, granted, there's people that take them off and stuff, but they have to be on there well enough to where it's on there for life. The sticker will not fade or disintegrate.
And by the way, don't take them off, guys. That's illegal too, FYI.
Yeah. They have to, obviously, you have to measure that. You have to tell them what the size is. You have to also tell them the model designation, the manufacturer's name, and of course the date of manufacturer.
This is all inside the helmet. Easily.
Some helmets, like one of mine has it on the back, actually
you can do it there too.
Schematics and stuff on it, and very small under the DOT.
Right. And you can do it there as long as it's easy to get to. You shouldn't have to remove the EPS or any permanent portions of the helmet. It has to be easy to see.
Yeah. And the key there, the last thing is it has to be on the outside and the back of the helmet.
The DOT sticker.
Yeah. So it can be clearly seen. And that's, of course, with federal. So if the law enforcement officer comes up or wants to inspect it, they can see it without you having to take it off or anything like that.
Right. Yep. Very, very good. Those are the 3 tests, guys, that kind of the standard tests, and that allows them the ability to stamp that with DOT. You're all familiar with that. All right, let's go on. And so the 3 standards. So we've covered DOT. That's kind of unless you guys disagree, that's kind of the foundation of all the tests. Just SNELL and ECE take them a little further, but they're kind of using the same test, right?
Yeah.
Am I correct on that?
Yeah, the ECE is quite a bit younger than the DOT standard, but they use a more comprehensive battery of tests.
Right.
Let's put it like that.
Good. So why don't somebody cover our next? We're going to cover is SNELL. So we've covered the 3 standards, the 3 standard ratings worldwide, the 3 most known: DOT, SNELL, and ECE. We've covered DOT. Now we're going to move on to SNELL rating. Who wants to jump in?
I can give
to that
what
little
I know.
bag of tricks.
I can give what I know. It's not as much, I'm sure, as what BD knows, but
God, you're fucking dumb, dude. You're dumb.
okay,
Sorry.
I'm not talking anymore.
Funny every time. Poor Jake. I'm sorry, dude. Go ahead.
He's probably smarter than both of us.
He
He's
is.
the ex-teacher.
That's why he doesn't talk as much, because he's smarter than both of us.
Well, this is a voluntary standard, from what I understand, developed by a Memorial Foundation for a rider that was killed in a motorcycle accident.
So it was a rider. See, I love learning from you, dude. So you did more research than me. So that was actually the name of a rider that got killed?
That's correct.
Okay. He's hoping.
Yeah. Well, from what and it basically, they said it's voluntary. It's usually...
He got killed?
That's what I thought I read.
I don't care.
I don't care.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
No, we're not dogging on anybody that may have lost their life. I honestly don't know.
It's pretty much.
Make some comments, guys. If you know a little more on us, lawabidingbiker.com/in the episode number, you can comment.
Yeah, this pretty much is used by racing bodies.
Okay.
It's sometimes a requirement.
That's the way I understand it too, yeah.
And the standards are different, a little bit more stringent.
They sound like the highest standards.
That's what I know of it. But like I said, it's voluntary and the standards are higher.
Yeah, it's kind of considered the gold standard for helmet safety. And to get the M2015 certification, it uses the most aggressive, and that's the anvil testing standard.
Right. Which, did we get into that?
No. You told,
how
you
did
told
we not
us
do
to
that?
hold off just like a normal law enforcement sergeant would or something like that.
Oh my God, we didn't get it. We ran the 3 tests. The anvil's one of them. How did we skip that?
No, anvil isn't a DOT standard. It's the penetration standard. Anvil is for ECE, SNELL, and...
So the 3 tests used for DOT: penetration, retention system, and impact. That's right. We got to get into ECE. Okay, well, that's all right. No problem. I'm glad you're fixing that up. So here's the SNELL Foundation homepage. The SNELL, I'm just looking it up. The SNELL Memorial Foundation Incorporated is a nonprofit dedicated to the research, education, testing, and development of helmet safety standards since its founding in 1957. SNELL has been, so they're before 1972 or 74 was DOT when they started there. SNELL has been a leader in helmet safety around the world. I wish there was you guys can keep talking about it, but I wish there was an about page to find out if that was the actual name of someone that was hurt. But I'll look at more into that.
Yeah, SNELL was basically designed.
It's voluntary.
Thinking the safety requirements for racetrack safety. That's what it was created at.
Okay.
So they try to implement the same energy levels and the safety requirements that they would need on the racetrack. They're proud of the fact that they do additional testing for the characteristics. The biggest difference, or the key difference that you'll see there, is the high level of control that they have over the testing process versus some of the other processes.
Right.
So SNELL, being a private company, is taking these helmets and testing them themselves, and then they give their recommendation. So a manufacturer would basically bring it to the technician, Jake Justice.
They got to apply for
test it,
right?
And they either pass it or they don't. Instead of it being a test so many that come out, and
right.
SNELL claims that they look for any weaknesses whatsoever at any point in the helmet. So that doesn't mean instead of a 1 point of impact and the rest, was left there, they look for it all.
And that's why you won't see a lot of SNELL on a lot of helmets, except high-end expensive helmets, because let me read this real quick. The SNELL Memorial Foundation is a nonprofit organization created to provide a high-quality standard of safety for helmets. Founded in 1957, the foundation is named after William, quote, Pete Snell, a popular sports car racer who died in 1956 of head injuries he received when the racing helmet he wore failed to protect his head. A group of friends, scientists, physicians, and others joined together to create a group that would promote research and educate, as well as test and develop standards to improve the effectiveness of helmets. There you go.
Yeah, and they use 3 different types of anvil shapes. So their key is that they are more.
So let's talk about it. We don't even know what an anvil is, dude. So let's explain honestly, I had to look that up, dude, because I've heard of anvil, but I don't actually know what it is. Didn't I put that in here somewhere?
It's up on the DOT standard. You have it listed.
Oh, I do. Right up here.
Go up to DOT. Yeah, if you go down the impact attenuation, it's under that.
Impact
anvil defined.
Oh yeah. See, I knew I did. Yeah, see, it is. So no, DOT uses anvil, dude. That's the standard. BD. That's what I was telling you.
Yeah, they just call it the penetration standard, is what I meant.
No, the anvil is not penetration. Penetration is separate from the anvil. The anvil is actually testing impact attenuation. I know that because I watched videos. That's actually the impact attenuation where they drop the actual helmet. Okay, the helmet is on a mannequin. It's dropped on. Here's the test, guys. Attenuation. You know what that is? That's the absorption. How much it can absorb. The helmet is actually put on a mannequin. It's dropped onto a round anvil. An anvil is defined as a heavily iron block with a smooth face, frequently of steel, on which metals, usually heated until soft. So it looks like a metal dick. Honestly, I looked at some YouTube videos. It looks like a big metal mushroom head penis.
They're actually using a real anvil, or is it an An anvil specifically for this purpose.
No, it's an anvil specifically for this purpose, so they're all the same.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Snell uses 3 anvil shapes. They use flat,
See?
hemi, and edge.
And that's the different. DOT is just an anvil. And so that's what they're doing with the impact attenuation, guys, is they're dropping the helmet onto this anvil is what they're doing.
DOT.
The penetration is different.
Yeah, DOT uses the flat it's true that the edge anvil, which is what DOT uses, provides the most extreme and high energy phase, but Snell takes it the next level, and they obviously try to with the other 2 types, which is the flat and the hemi.
Right.
Don't
Very
they
good.
go with varying speeds as well?
Yeah.
Or varying levels of impact.
Right, for how high they drop it. Same with ECE. Basically, they use the anvil test ECE, but they drop it from a higher level.
Not only that, but Snell actually says if the helmet is too hard, then
it bounces.
That it will be considered unsafe
They don't
and fail
like
the
it.
test because it allows more than 275 grams of energy transfer on a flat anvil strike, which is very important when you're thinking about your head skipping across the roadway.
You don't want it bouncing back. It'll snap your neck, and that's important. Very good. Good freaking info. All right. So it is a voluntary. And so what else do you know about this? 3 different standards, same test as DOT, higher drop of the helmet, basically, which is a more severe impact they test at. I don't have the exact levels of that, but they test impact severity, impact criteria. Number of tests performed are more for Snell, like basically what BD Kane said, right? They're doing more, and he even got more specific. There is in different shaped anvils. The one I saw mostly on the videos I researched, it looks just like, all jokes aside, it just looks like a metal dick with a mushroom head. I mean, literally, that's what they're dropping it on.
Will they test? It says here, I see where it says they won't do modular helmets.
Correct. Snell will not.
Will they do half helmets?
No.
Full face only.
Snell is all about the ultimate protection.
Full face.
Yes. The only way you get a Snell rating is non-modular full face helmet, and it better pass the test. Good question, Jakey. From my research, that is the way I understand it.
It sounds like it makes sense that way.
Right. All right. So who wants to continue on with this Snell certifications and all that, how they actually get certified and how before you can get the sticker on there, the Snell sticker, which I'm saying you're going to spend a lot on a Snell helmet, guys.
Yeah. I mean, the technicians, they'll go ahead and test the helmet that are submitted. This is the difference.
In their
submitted
lab.
by the manufacturers in their lab. And then usually it's not uncommon for those helmets, once they're certified in the past, that does not mean that they just continue. When there's a new model or something else, they have to undergo new testing. And obviously you talked about the no test of the modular helmets. And just so you know, Snell is kind of considered, we'll talk about Sharp, which is the other one, which isn't in the notes, but Snell is considered above the ECE and all that. So,
right.
I mean, ECE is very equivalent to the DOT.
But there's argument on that too.
There is, because the ECE is used in 50 countries around the world, other than the U.S.
And there's disagreements about how much EPS, which we'll talk about, guys. EPS is basically we'll talk about it, but it's the foam, the styrofoam in between the shell and your head. There's actually a lot of argument on whether ECE or Snell is better, depending on who you talk to. A lot of controversy surrounding that, but we'll break that down in a minute. But yeah, so technicians in the Snell lab actually test it, and the manufacturers. It's a big deal. The manufacturer actually get a hold of Snell and say, "Hey, we want." I mean, it's a coveted thing by the helmets that are very, very expensive that can bear the Snell logo. Or the certification. So Snell, this is a cool thing about Snell is they go out as a private nonprofit and they actually buy helmets. So you can have a Snell certification as a manufacturer, and then, you might make another series of them at your factory and fudge a little bit, and lower the standards, but sell them for the same price. Well, Snell keeps them honest, and Snell actually goes out and buys their helmets that have already been certified by them and says, "Oh, it's a year later. Let's go buy that same helmet."
So they're checking on them too, like DOT.
Exactly. But I think Snell's probably on it more. Anybody that's a private industry is going to do a better job than the government.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So clearly it's a better run business model. I mean, government sucks at running businesses. They're terrible at it. But they make sure that the manufacturers have not relaxed their standards. This goes on behind the scenes. And again, they won't do modular helmets. I'm not sure why. I couldn't find a lot on that. They just don't test them. But modular helmets, when they're down, mine's ECE rated and DOT. So it's been through the ECE test, and my Schuberth has been through the DOT test, and it's a great helmet. It actually ranks very, very high for impact and penetration and all that. So why Snell won't do it, I don't know. Just whatever. I don't think there's any particular reason other than they don't do half helmets, and they only do the full face, full deal. They just haven't got into modulars. So anything else about Snell, guys, before we move on to number 3? So DOT, Snell, and number 3 is ECE, which is Economic Commission of Europe. Who want to tackle this? My mouth's getting dry. I need a Frosty.
Yeah, ECE 22.05, in fact. And the big thing of difference between that and its American cousin, the DOT, of course, is the fact that it's not only younger, but they claim to offer more ways, more of a comprehensive battery of testing than DOT. So the difference between them and DOT is ECE is not only testing for impact stuff, but they're also looking for features that can contribute to avoid an accident altogether. And this is why you'll hear a lot of stuff about ECEs are better than DOT.
Right. Most people believe that.
Right.
Yeah. I do.
Well, and they were saying too that they require a batch test of their helmets, where DOT is more of a random checks and balances kind of thing.
Yeah. In the ECE, things that they're looking at, and I know Jake knows this because we researched it, but I mean, they're looking at
talked off podcast. Yeah. I get it. You're fired.
Yeah. they're actually looking at stuff.
Never mind, you're free.
Is like the vision, structural rigidity. They're looking at the foam,
the EPS,
the ECE. When they certify, I mean, they actually have to test it against the standard at an independent lab before they'll ECE it, before they'll put their sticker on it. So instead of like a DOT, and we're not talking DOT because there's some American companies that produce pretty good helmets.
No, they're fine.
For DOT.
No,
but instead of it being a trust on your honor issue with a random testing by independent contractors, ECE is literally, they're holding the independent labs before they even allow the sell or even put in the ECE. So they're doing that, and then also they also use the anvil test, but it's called the curbstone, which they say produces a lower energy blow than the hemi anvil that's used in the Snell and DOT testing. So it's kind of
I prefer a high energy blow.
Yeah,
that's my call.
It's kind of one of those
that's
deals where you
Jake.
start to wonder. Here it is, DOT. People think it's less. But the ECE is using a different anvil that the same experts say is not as good, not as more flat than the penetration one. That test. So
no, yeah, it's good. And ECE, yeah, again, United Nations Economic Commission. We all know the United Nations is a squared away, completely trustworthy. No, but ECE literally is a very good standard, and a lot of helmets don't have it because it is harder to get. And the cool thing about ECE is requires mandatory batch testing of helmets before they leave the factory. Okay, so DOT is random and it's testing after the helmet is released to the market. So technically, DOT standards, a company could release a helmet to thousands of bikers that is bad, and by the time DOT catches it, you've got to do a recall. Then where ECE, first of all, you got to apply with them to get your helmet ECE certified. Then if they certify it, you can't release it until it's certified. And so there's a whole bunch more controls when you're talking about ECE, which, that's why a lot of US manufacturers don't do it, because it's a lot of extra headaches for their company. But I'll tell you, I bought my Schuberth because it was both DOT and ECE. I wanted that extra ECE rating on it. Honestly, that was my personal thing.
Yeah,
so.
And don't forget the difference too, that DOT allows the technician to strike the helmet anywhere within a range. So I don't know what that range is, but let's just say for mathematic purposes, it's a 4x4 area on the helmet, versus ECE actually has a specific point of impact. They require the strikes at fixed points, which obviously leaves open the possibility of manufacturers trying to game up the system and beefing up protection in the fixed in the area versus a certain point.
Nice research, dude. Nice research. That's
good
BDK.
info.
That's why he's on here, buddy. You too, Jakey.
Yeah, you went above and beyond there, though, BD.
I know, but I do
No, that's
know.
fucking awesome,
I do know
dude.
that Jake did some research about the Sharp system, so he'll be able to talk about that when we're ready.
Definitely. So there's it. ECE tests are peripheral vision, impact, penetration, shock absorption, retention, and chin strap strength of chin strap, of course. And we already said if they pass the ECE standard, then they get a sticker, much like the DOT, which is right below my DOT on my Schuberth, is ECE manufacturer date in a conspicuous place inside, inconspicuous, where I can see the manufacturer date, model name, model number, size, contact information. Very, very important.
I think the vision thing is a big deal, Ryan. I think it should be tested. I mean,
I agree.
What is your field of vision and stuff like that?
Right.
Because we've all bought cheap helmets when we first started out that were not very expensive, and they said DOT on them, and you put them on, and the windshield, full face or whatever, doesn't provide a lot of area for you to go to turn around, look at your shoulder, and
right. Yes. Have we thanked any patrons?
We need
this
to get
episode.
on it.
We do need to get on that. So these patrons are sponsors of this episode, guys. We love the patrons. Take action right now. That's right. You running? Stop. Just go to lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon, Patreon. That's right. You driving right now. Pull over. That's right. You walking your dog. That's right. You on your lawn mower. Let's thank these people. What do you say, Jakey?
All right, we have Castor Rodriguez, location unknown.
Thank you.
Troy Gilliland.
Gilliland.
You're right, Gilliland of Battle Creek, Michigan, and Paul Fullerton of Arvada, Colorado.
Thank you so much. They took action. They want to make sure and see this show head on down the road. They wanted to put a little fuel in the law-abiding backer gas tank. They wanted to make sure that everyone around the world can have access to this podcast and become what we call part of the biker revolution. Thanks, guys. Really, really appreciate the patrons. That's right. You can pledge a certain amount per piece of content. No risk to you. You can put a cap on it. All right. So we've talked about DOT. We've talked about SNELL. We've talked about ECE. Any last things before we move on that you guys want to talk about? Any one of those three? I don't want to talk about Sharp yet. I just want to talk about those.
I think we covered it.
Going,
gone,
done. All right. So with that said, do you guys want to, I don't know anything about the Sharp. Why don't you brief on the Sharp test real quick? Because it's not it's newest, but it's not one of the most recognized yet.
Well, I guess what I've learned with Sharp is it's right now, it's basically in the European area only. They're currently, their idea is they're only testing helmets that have been through the ECE standard already. And so what they're doing is, I guess they're looking at a helmet's ability to manage energy. So they're doing some additional testing on impact. Like I think they're talking 5 different points of impact. And then instead of the pass-fail version of like the ECE or the DOT, I guess, or even the SNELL, they're doing a color coding. I don't know what the colors are, honestly, but I guess it's supposed to indicate the level of safety based on the impact test that they're doing. And they're trying to test at different impact speeds. I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they're talking about, okay, when you're in a car, for example, car dealerships or car manufacturers are all the time doing crash tests. And it's very easy to, I guess, anticipate the forces that are going to occur in a car crash, because depending on what angle they hit, they're somewhat based on, the shape of the car, et cetera. They're somewhat, I guess, standard. That might not be the right word, but they're more predictable.
Okay,
and
yeah.
a motorcycle crash is a whole bunch of different stuff going on when you crash. It could
Especially depending on how you hit.
A lot of different variables. Everything from, the size of the person.
What kind of helmet you have on.
Helmet.
Seatbelts are pretty much all the same. Depends what kind of helmet you have.
They're just trying to add some additions there. Right now, they haven't done any testing in America. It's mainly Europe. There's some detractors that are saying it's not a accurate kind of thing. It's still pretty new, and from what I've been reading, it's pretty divisive over there right now.
Good info. BD Kane, any follow up?
Well, I think that any chance that we have where somebody's testing something that would make us safer, I'm okay with that. That's just my personal opinion
agree
on that. But obviously, when you're a private industry and you're doing this testing, you're doing it for a reason. You either got a big government grant to do the testing, or you're in profit or future in profit to make money, just like drug companies. So
it's like everything. Yep.
One of the things
that's what makes it go around.
One of the things they're doing too, I think that's different than some of these, is after the test, they're actually doing what they're calling a helmet autopsy. They're taking it apart and kind of looking at what the impacts have done to the insides of the helmet, to the foam, to the structure.
Very cool. We'll have to stay in touch with that. One of the disagreements between standards, guys, we alluded to earlier in the episode, is the EPS, the EPS, which is expanded polystyrene styrofoam in helmets. It's basically what the styrofoam ice chests are made out of, to put it in perspective for you guys. But it's very predictable about the way they make that styrofoam and the density of it. And that's what they're using in helmets, bicycle helmets for kids. Every kind of helmet uses this EPS, not just motorcycle helmets. It's expanded polystyrene is one of the most widespread foams used in our society. It is basically, like I say, the white picnic cooler foam that you see in eggs and stereo gear packed in it. It is the peanuts in your mail order package. It is the white food carton or drink cup you get a carryout. It's super cheap to manufacture, light, and has almost ideal crush characteristics with no bounce back, which we alluded to earlier. Very important to crush appropriately and then not bounce back to make more trauma and the impact more severe. It can be reliably manufactured with reasonable quality control procedures. Here's one of the arguments that I talked about earlier, is that Snell believes that the thicker the EPS, the more protection. However, the controversy is the thicker the EPS liner, that of course makes the helmet heavier. And so the ECE theory on that is they believe less EPS makes the helmet lighter, thus less inertia during an impact, reducing head, neck, clavicle, and back injuries. So that's the basic. To break it down, Snell believes, hey, put a shitload of EPS and it's safer. ECE is saying, no, if you put a ton of EPS, you're idiots, because then you're making the helmet heavier, which causes more neck and clavicle. If you can think about the force and inertia of when you're going down on a helmet, that's going to cause more injury because the helmet is actually going faster towards the pavement. You know what? You guys can be the jury on that. They've obviously both done a ton of tests. Honestly, I think there's a fine line between both. I think it has to be met in the middle on how thick you're going to go and how much inertia you're causing versus how much protection you're providing.
Yeah, the thicker the EPS, I could see it would be also less resistive to the bounce, less cushion. So I could see where that would be an issue. And I am kind of surprised, probably because we don't have the control module over there, but he said going down and there was no weird sounds. That seems kind of weird. But,
straight up,
down. But it does make sense that both of them have their own views. They both obviously are going to have their thing, but I'm sure that when there's money to be made, they will definitely try to take advantage of that. And so buy the helmet that you want. I saw an article on one of our affiliate links that basically said if you're traveling 405 in California on a crotch rocket every day and there's cars that can cause accidents, then you probably want a Snell. If you're just driving back and forth to work on the old country road and there's not a lot of traffic, then a DOT may be just fine for you.
Yeah, and a lot of it is budget. How much is your budget worth to your safety? Because obviously, even if you're on country roads without a lot of traffic, you can get in the same kind of collision. Somebody hits you or something like that. And we all saw the recent.
We haven't even.
We all saw the recent William Crum.
Yeah,
where he ran those bikers off the road and all that. So
I don't care.
Or that we haven't even got into half and three quarters either, because it does no good to have a DOT or an ECE.
What were you doing when you hit this?
That ruins your concentration, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're fucking dumb. The ECE and DOT will do 3/4 helmets, but obviously you go to a 3/4 helmet like what I like to wear, the old school type. They're great for the impact resistant, but you got nothing protecting your face.
No, and that's not one of the standards, which is funny.
No.
DOT is like, we only care if your head's well. We don't give a shit if your face is okay.
Yeah, and then we have people we ride with that as soon as they hit the Idaho line, they're not going to wear a helmet ever
right.
again all the way back to the East Coast if they don't have to. So it's everybody's
Well,
own
we're not
deal,
even
but-
there yet.
No, but I'm just saying with the ECE and DOT testing is the fact that they will certify half helmets and
Three quarters.
And we all know that if your face hits the pavement, that's not going to protect you much.
Right. It's that time.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
What do you guys think?
I'm ready to pump it.
Straight up. It's going to be straight up freaking round table, guys. And we're going to get right into it. So a lot of you ask our opinions. We've talked about it in the past a little bit. You got 3 guys in here. I don't actually know what our opinions are. That's why we like to keep it real. That's why I said if it's good enough to talk about, it's good enough to record. That's my podcast motto. If we're going to talk about it and have a conversation, well, damn it, we're going to record it. And so the question is, should there be helmet laws? And we've alluded to it in the past. We all have our different opinions, and we're going to go a round table. Should there be helmet laws? We're going to have some open discussion. Why or why not we believe it? Why or why not we've made our minds up, and we're going to state our case. This is the real frickin' shebang here, Jakey and BD Kane.
Yep.
Really, honestly, have we rehearsed this at all?
Nope.
No, I don't even know what your opinion
I didn't
is.
even know this.
I'm
was gonna
popping
be
my
on there.
knuckles right now.
You didn't know it was going to be in there, dude? It was in there on your notes when I sent them to you.
Yeah, I must have missed that part. I saw closing and
The big round table thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you missed that? Mhm.
Oh, I'm ready though.
Yeah, he's ready to fight, dude. Straight up. He's a fighter over there. Look at him.
Oh yeah, I got my
His
Rocky
eyes. He's wrapping his hands right now, taping them up, listening to his headphones, looking at the ground, shaking his
Little eye of the
foot.
tiger.
His foot's on the floor. He's twitching his up and down on his ankle. He's ready for the fight.
Is
He's
it wrong
sweating.
that he keeps trying to grab the mic and kiss it?
That's right. They're putting Vaseline on his face right now. He's feeling it. He's feeling it. I've put Vaseline on his face before, but it wasn't for that reason. Just. Sorry, Jake.
That was his face?
How do I get on tangents like that?
I have no clue.
Music
Why
just,
would you put Vaseline on a face?
Well, I'm saying, well, I can tell you why.
Like a butter face?
Do you want a visual? I can do a visual if you like. I mean,
Yeah.
it's up to you, dude. Okay, I just get on tangents, dude. Music just drives me. Okay, so round table. Do you guys want me to start or do you want to start?
Go ahead and start.
Okay, so here's what I say. Should there be helmet laws? Well, that's not an easy question to answer. Here's kind of the way I break it down. So this is the argument I don't like. There's different arguments for helmet laws, and this is the ignorant, to me, and I'll just say it out there. This is the ignorant helmet argument, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'll back up what I have to say. So a lot of people say, I've heard, and it's funny, and I agree, the only difference between someone wearing a helmet and not wearing a helmet in a motorcycle crash is an open casket and a closed casket. Okay? Now, I call complete 100% bullshit on that. Okay? The reason I call bullshit on that's actually not true. I can tell you that I have a 20 plus years of LEO experience. I don't base it off government studies. I don't base it off government funding. All my opinions that I'm going to give you today on this matter are straight from my particular statistics and what the destruction that I've seen personally, and I've seen the lives saved. That's my personal, again, not government funded. I'm not doing anything like that. So I will tell you that alone is a funny statement, yet an ignorant statement. Okay. It's not true. And I will defer to the most recent incident. And that is, if you look at the podcast we did where William Crum swerved over and hit the driver and passenger on a sports bike, they went down like a pile of shit at high speed. They were trying to make a pass. Those two individuals are alive because they were both wearing helmets. I encourage you. I want you to go look at that video in frame by frame slow motion. They both hit their heads and they're both, although injured, alive. And I'm very, very confident because I've experienced wrecks at those speeds. I've seen what happens, that those two individuals would have, if not dead, severe head injuries because they had no way to protect themselves from going down. So I would defer to that. I would also tell you that I have seen both motorcycle collisions, both many, many fatalities, and those that have escaped fatality collisions. And I will tell you that I have seen helmets heavily damaged, and I've seen people go over cars. And I will tell you that many of those people are alive today and not brain dead because they were wearing helmets. So that there's two issues to me. Number one is, should there be helmet laws? I just want to say, don't argue that point with me. Don't argue me. I don't like and you guys can, of course, if you want, because that's what this podcast is about. I just tell you from my personal experience and what these eyes have seen over many, many years. In the first 11 years of my LEO career was on freeways and highway systems. I had to handle a lot of fatality collisions, and many of them were motorcycle collisions. I can't remember one that would be the difference between an open casket and a closed casket. Of course, if you're wearing a helmet and you hit a semi head on, it doesn't matter what happens, you are going to die. So I guess that would, don't argue that point with me. Now, the point that I would be open to is you don't believe that the government has the right to tell you whether to wear helmets. I'm okay with that argument. And I'm not at this point saying I agree with it or disagree. What I'm telling people is that is a argument that can be argued. I just don't like it when people stand behind the argument that a helmet's not going to save you if it's bad enough in a motorcycle collision, because it's not true. We just saw the William Crum incident. Those people are going to live because they were wearing helmets. So to me, that's an ignorant statement. If you come to me and say, I just don't agree that the government should interfere with me wearing a helmet, well, I'm okay, because at least you're starting out with a foundation for a legal argument, but not a protection argument. I don't think anybody in this day and age can say, honestly, that a helmet is not going to help protect you in a collision. We've seen it. We see it with kids' bikes. We've seen it with all kinds of stuff. We see it with snowboarding accidents where lots of people are wearing helmets. There's a reason they're not doing it, because it's government dictated. Snowboarding helmets are not dictated. Bicycle helmets are not dictated by the government, but people are choosing to wear them because we're a more educated society. It's the same argument I'll fall back on seatbelts. People say that seatbelts, I know an incident where a guy drowned because he was in a seatbelt. Okay, that's an ignorant argument up front. I agree. Less than 1%, well less than 1%, you can actually attribute that a seatbelt may have hindered somebody getting out of their car and drowning. But I can tell you, over 20 years of law enforcement, I can't tell you how many lives have been saved and people should be seriously injured. I'm looking at the car going, how did they survive? The reason they survived is because they had a seatbelt on. The people that got ejected are dead, and I've investigated those fatalities. The people that got ejected into rivers, they say, well, they could have drowned if they would have had their seatbelt on and fell in the river. Well, they also died because they were ejected into the river before the car got there, and they're dead because of that. So that would be those are the arguments I don't like. If you come to me and just say, I don't like seatbelt laws or helmet laws because it's my personal belief, that's an intrusion on my, on my rights as a United States citizen. I may not agree with you, but the last point I'll make, and then you guys can go around. The last point I make is the only reason that I believe there should be helmet laws is a monetary issue for me. And the reason is, break it down for you guys. The reason is, for all those people that don't wear helmets and they get in crashes, unfortunately, many of them are uninsured. And here in Washington State, you don't have to have insurance on a motorcycle. So if dumbass decides to go out and ride without a helmet, and he gets hit, I have to pay for his vegetable state and his pudding to eat out of his wheelchair and suck through a straw for the rest of his life. If insurance was mandatory for all motorcycles, even in Washington State, and I don't know how the other states, then I'm okay with the no helmet law, as long as dumbass is covered if he chooses to ride without a helmet and becomes a vegetable, because I don't believe that I should have to pay for his stupidity the rest of his life. I'll end on, yes, I have ridden without a helmet, and it is a great feeling, and I do it in states now and then. I did it this year at Sturgis, back and forth to Starbucks and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, down deep, I know it's not a great personal decision for me. When I'm riding the rest of the time, I do wear my 3/4 sometimes when I'm running around town. Then when we go on long trips, I wear my full face Schuberth, ECE, and DOT certified. So I hope that opens up some discussion. I've obviously have my very deep opinions on that. So at the end of the day, as long as states require people to be insured, I say screw a helmet. You don't have to wear it if that's your constitutional, you believe it's your constitutional decision. I just don't want to have to pay for your medical bills. All right. What say you, round table? That open up some good discussion for you guys?
Yeah, I got one thing to say.
Okay. Well, you better have more than one thing to say. I just went on for like 5 freaking minutes.
I don't care. No. No, you want me to start?
I don't care, Justice.
You want me to start?
Well, hell yeah.
All right.
I'm thirsty after that. I'm
here's
thirsty.
my feeling on this. I agree with a lot of things you're saying there. I'm going to be, my standpoint on it is, yes, I think people should wear helmets.
Yeah, that's wrong. No, go ahead.
I think that I will.
What did you do?
I will wear helmets more often than not. I'm kind of like you. There was a time this summer when I was in Sturgis and riding through Idaho where I didn't, but most of the time I do, and I think I would. But I don't think that the law should be there. I think it's up to the people. Personally, I know that.
Under what circumstances? You just think that people should be able to run around uninsured, and you think people should not be able to wear helmets, and then what happens to society when that person gets hit?
You know, you talk about, well, we're going to be paying for them for the rest of their lives. Well, we got dumb shits, we got people that I see every day that I think is a worse problem that should never be having kids, and we're paying for them for the rest of their lives.
But should we add to the compound of the problem, Jake?
Well, if we're going to do a helmet law, we should have a license to have children.
Okay, I agree. If we're going to go down that road, I agree.
If
we're going to go back to welfare and the whole system there, but let's stick with helmets. Should we compound that problem is my thing.
I guess Idaho has the law I think that I like the best. They have to have a helmet if they're 18 or under.
Okay,
riding a motorcycle. If they're over 18, it's their choice.
Do they have to be insured on their bikes in Oregon?
Or in Idaho?
Or Idaho, sorry.
No, they don't.
Okay.
And I get that point with the money, I guess.
I'm sorry that's cold, but it is a very huge factor for me, a monetary factor, because fatality, collisions, and investigations and injuries cost us billions of dollars a year. Yeah. You know that about insurance.
Yeah, I guess I think I'm just fed up with some of the laws I'm being told all the time. You know, I agree. Point. And I think,
hey, I'm for it if they're insured. I say, I agree. Don't intrude on me, government. As long as they're covered, I'm okay with choice.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe that's the way to go. I mean, maybe you have a point. Well, let's have a law where you don't have to wear one if you have insurance. There could be something.
I think we could do that.
You could do it.
I really do. I think some states may be like that.
Yeah, I guess
I'm not sure.
The question would be, how do you, as an LEO, how, like I said, you were talking, you got 20 years experience. I'm looking at 16. I don't work in a jurisdiction where we have a lot of high-speed motorcycle accidents. Right. And so I really haven't seen it other than when I'm assisting. I've seen a couple. So I don't have the experience you've had, so that might be why I'm tempered a little bit on that. Because I just haven't seen that so much. But, if from the LEO standpoint, let's say that law was in effect where you don't have to wear a helmet if you were insured, how does a cop that's...
Tag it to your registration.
There you go.
Easy, run the plate, insured, and he's not wearing a helmet. Good. I mean, we have the technology for
now,
that.
We do.
Right.
And that's a good point. Okay.
So I am for freedoms. I'm a big guy about government intrusion on people's life. And again, and I'm sorry if that sounds cold to everybody out there or you guys. It's a monetary thing for me. It really is. Sorry. And I care about people and I care about bikers, but if you want to be free and not wear a helmet, just please don't make me pay for your stupidity.
Well, it's a very
because I know I'm stupid when I don't wear a helmet, but I freely admit it. I'm okay with that.
And when this conversation started, I didn't even think of that point of it though.
Right.
So that's a good thing to bring up. And like I said, in a perfect world, that's what it'd be. If you were not insured, let's do it that way. If you're not insured, you're wearing one. If you are, you don't have to. If you don't want to, it's your choice. That'd be a great law. I don't think we'll ever get it done.
Right. No, probably not. Probably not, because it makes sense. Yeah. And things that make sense don't make laws. Right. So at the end of the day, stick to your guns. At the end of the day, the same thing. I'm going to side on the side of not having the law, but I still believe that people should wear helmets. I know that sounds stupid. I don't like good.
The law.
Right. No, and that actually makes more sense than you think. I'm kind of the same way. If you take away the monetary thing, I agree. I don't think people should have to wear seatbelts, but but I think they should.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should have to wear helmets, but I think they should. I will never not let my kids wear a helmet. I will never let my kids not be in a seatbelt because I'm smart.
Right.
And I've seen the destruction, and I know their chances of surviving a crash, a minor crash or a serious crash with a seatbelt on is that much, but I'm going to use my common sense. But if somebody, I believe in the right for people to make stupid decisions to a certain extent.
Agreed.
And if somebody wants to make a stupid decision, the other point I was going to key on, sorry, BD, is when it comes to, oh God, I lost my train of thought on that.
Wonk, wonk,
Yeah,
wonk.
let me do it for me. Hang on. I had a serious, it's like playing the lottery is, people say, well, there's a less than 1% chance that if I'm in a seatbelt, I could get trapped and drown. Well, you're an idiot. If you're going to the casino, do you go with the odds or not the odds? Don't tell me that because there's less than a 1% chance, you're going to risk your whole life that you will be involved in any collision, and that less than 1% chance you will be saved because you weren't wearing your seatbelt. You know what? You're a human being. Pull your head out of your ass. You go with the odds. You go with the odds. You know what? There's more likely that it's going to save my life. And it's not like 50-50. It's not like 60-40. It's like 99 to 1% that the seatbelt's going to save going to reduce injury and save lives. Same with the helmet. So you can't argue the odds with me on that. But go, anything else, Jake?
Nope,
BD Kane, look at BD Kane over there. Hang on. Look at him. Let's do one for him.
He is.
Look he's got a fist made. Look at his left hand.
He's percolating.
He's got a fist. He's percolating. Look at the drool coming out of one side of his mouth. He just put his mouth guard in. He's putting his mouth guard in right now. He actually is ready to completely put you in a chokehold over there right now. He's reaching across. Let's set the scene. Yeah, he's got the sweat going. He's got his earphones going. He's just gritting his teeth, dude. He's just ready to dig in. What say you, BD Kane, on this subject? You better have something good after that.
You're dumb.
You're fucking dumb.
You're fucking dumb, dude. You're dumb.
What are you doing? No, I'm going to approach this as though I didn't hear either one of your topics.
Good.
And here are the things that I've heard in defense of having it. And here are the things that I've heard in defense of not having it.
But you're going to give us your ultimate opinion.
Yes.
You're not just going to give us what other people say.
Yes.
Damn right you are.
I am a philosopher by heart.
Well, you're
love,
a poet.
So,
you're a poet, we heard on the beginning of one
poet, I didn't
podcast.
even know,
And you're
yeah.
a rapper
Yeah.
at the beginning of this one.
I just can't rap presents. I can rap my rhymes.
Right, straight up.
No, so here's the deal. In what I've heard in response to not having it is
helmet.
my right to choose what I do with my body. And that is the same argument that individuals do right now with probably the hottest topic in the United States, which is abortion. And I have a right to do what I want with my body. And if the Supreme Court has upheld that and said, yeah, you do have a right, even if it is the taking of anything, whether it be money, property, life, whatever, the argument would be is I have a right to decide whether I want to wear a brain bucket or not. Okay? That's one side of it. The other side of it is I've heard individuals say, well, just because you have a right to go drive around on a motorcycle without a helmet doesn't mean that we have a right as taxpayers to have to pay for you for the rest of our lives. So those are the two.
Hear that, Jake?
I'm going to start with that.
Yes, I did.
As far as the two bases that I'm going to go on my opinion, because here it is. You've got a very clear, one side says, don't tell me what to do. And the other side is, we're going to tell you what to do because just because you have that right, we shouldn't have to pay for you the rest of your life. Here is my opinion. I wear helmets. I like helmets. I think not only are they, especially if you're into helmets,
A
like
fashion statement.
collecting 3/4 vintage style helmets, I like that process. I had this conversation with LD when we were coming back from Pennsylvania because the entire time he was without a helmet.
You actually had a conversation with LD?
Yeah.
Because it usually lasts about a second.
It was about 95 degrees,
Right.
95 miles per hour. But
Right.
But I told him, the reason why I like wearing a helmet is because I don't know what it is about this bike that I have, but I've noticed when I did go without a helmet, I had a lot more wind coming past my ears. And
It's
I found
rider fatigue. We could get into that whole thing.
I found that it was actually, I didn't hear the music as well because I heard more of the wind noise and stuff. And I found that when I wear my little 3/4 vintage style helmet, I don't get that wind noise. And all I have coming at me is the sound. And he kind of looked at me like I was crazy, like, whatever, you're covering your ears. How are you going to hear things louder? And I said, well, that's just me. But the wind bothers me more than anything.
May I remind you real quick, hold your thought. May I remind you that LD wears a 3/4 helmet and he's staunchly against wearing helmets. And yet he puts earplugs in while he rides with his 3/4. So tell me how that's any different than your 3/4 helmet. And I have video of it, by the way, so LD can never deny it.
It was a half helmet, I think.
Right. And he argues, I love it because I burned him on that night. He knew I had video. And LD, if you're listening,
I was on that ride. I was
you.
there.
Yeah.
I got it.
And dude, he's wearing earplugs and then he's bitching at people. Well, how do you hear your stereo? Dude, you're wearing earplugs. Well, it's the same freaking thing. I actually hear it better because I'm not wearing earplugs.
Well, on the way to Sturgis, he was telling me I had my helmet on going down there, and every time we'd stop, nice helmet, Church.
Oh no, and the thing is, that's just LD. He has no argument for it. If he was here right now, he just, and probably his belief is just, the same. Shouldn't have to wear it. But from a safety aspect, like I said, nobody can argue that it's likely going to help you or save your life.
Well, where I'm going with this is that I got across the border. I wore my helmet all the way to Pittsburgh, and on the way back, at some point I took it off, and it was just hot. It was miserable, and it was hot. And that 150-mile trek, I was miserable. I felt the wind coming past my ears. I don't like the way that.
And you're talking 6,200 miles here, folks.
Yeah.
Not a day ride.
And he thought I was crazy when he goes, well, you putting your helmet back on. I go, you're not going to believe this, but I actually hear my radio better with my helmet on.
It's true.
Than without, because then the helmet blocks all the wind noise. And all I'm getting is the sound that's coming up from, up from the chin area up and stuff like this.
Very true.
I said, I don't know if it's any louder, but I don't have all the air interference. But that's not why I wear a helmet. I'm going to tell you the reason why I wear a helmet is because I grew up riding 3-wheelers and dirt bikes. And I damn near killed myself 4 times. I can name each incident, which I'm not going to go into, but one of them was a bad enough wreck on a 3-wheeler following a logging truck up at Tampico, and I crashed. And 3 weeks later, I was in the hospital I passed out in a restaurant because I didn't keep it, I washed it with soap and water, this and that. I didn't know. I ended up coming down with an infection. It made me pass out. I almost...
This is sad. No, don't laugh. Dude, we need the right mood for this.
So I basically pass out. I wake up the next day, and the priest from Providence is looking at me. He's like, son, do you know how many people that I see that are involved in motorcycle or ATV accidents that die?
Mm-hmm.
And you have been out for the last 14 hours. They had to open up my wound, dig out the infection. They had to put me on an antibiotic and this and that. Now, I was wearing a helmet.
Was it a head wound?
No, it was a leg wound. But the fact is, I was wearing a helmet. The helmet was completely scraped up and everything. To me, what that told me, that one experience along with the other 3, just me sick.
Dude, it's powerful. Just keep going. God, you had a roll.
The thing that it told me
I
was
love
that
you.
if I would have been wearing a helmet and my leg got so stretched up, stretched up, my leg got so scratched up. The PowerPoint's coming here. I got to get to it. What if I wasn't wearing a helmet and I would have banged my head up against the rock?
Yeah, right.
Because I actually went off of the road and rolled down into the ditch.
Banged.
And a logging truck coming behind saw the ATV and got me out, and I survived. The helmet was absolutely marred up and everything. Since that moment, I've always worn a helmet. And even with that, 3 weeks later, I find myself in the hospital septic because I had an infection on my leg.
See?
So, yes, it wouldn't have stopped the infection that I had, but my head hitting that ditch and then the rocks in the ditch probably would have done some serious damage. And that's just one of 4 that I can name. I'm not going to do the other 3 because I used to take the 3-wheeler out with my buddies and race them and jump them and dirt bikes. And it was just I was always brought up as, when you're riding your dirt bike, you wear your helmet because that's what the pros did. That's what everybody did.
But should there be a law?
Did I mention I love you?
Yeah, well,
We could have lost you, little buddy.
I know.
I almost lost you, little buddy.
I almost died. It's like that meme that they have, or meme or whatever that they have. Yeah, you rode with me like LD.
Yeah, right.
You did 95 with me, but did you die?
Right.
So that's just
No,
me.
that's good. I appreciate that.
I had 4 incidents growing up,
And so you think
before
the government
before I
should-
was ever 12 years old, and it saved my can on numerous occasions, hitting my head, whether it be flipping a 3-wheeler, crashing a dirt bike. So I wear them.
Again, the argument I don't think could be that it doesn't protect you.
No,
I don't think anybody can
I'm giving
legitimately.
you opinion as
Yeah.
to why I wear a
Good.
helmet, because I have experience where it's saved my bacon. Now,
Okay, go ahead.
as far as the government telling you what to do, early in my years when I started writing back in 1994, I did not believe that the government should tell me that I have to wear a
Hang
helmet.
on, what year was that?
1994.
Okay, we're going.
Can you get me some liquor
Go back
out of the
with me.
dispenser?
Go back
Just
with
like
us.
in Wayne's World?
The year was 1994. Go ahead.
When I was first writing, I didn't think the government should tell me what I need to do.
Were your balls dropped by then?
Probably not.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm sure the shaft was at least 2 inches shorter still.
Yes.
So,
Go ahead.
but that, I didn't agree with that. I didn't think the government should tell me what to do. But now, after years of working 240,
That's a freeway,
and
highway.
I-182, which 240, even though it's state, we end up getting out there a lot. I've seen a couple motorcycle accidents, and I've seen people survive because they've been wearing a helmet.
Me too.
And I've even had 3 incidents where dingbats, I'm not going to mince words, they're dingbats, were out riding their bike, going around the corner or whatever, without a helmet, and they've been struck, and they've been dip-da-does.
Yeah, right.
And
Vegetables.
I don't, maybe they recovered, but at the time that I was handling the accident,
Sucking pudding through a straw.
they weren't cross-eyed before, and they are now. Let's put it like that. So
Right.
their brain had some damage.
No
So
doubt.
my final opinion after giving you both sides of those coins is, if somebody wants to legally not wear a helmet and they're willing to take on that risk that they could end up depriving their wife, their children of their lives, and they know that the fact that if they're involved in an accident and it could end their life and they're willing to take that risk, then go for it. That's on you. However, I do agree with the argument, although not as strong as you, that I don't think it's the government's job to then have to pay for them or pay for their medical services and stuff. But I will tell you, in 1999, in Sturgis, my dad and I rolled upon an accident of a guy not wearing a helmet. And I will tell you that neither one of us was wearing a helmet that entire trip. So we're just as guilty.
Right. No, I'm telling you.
Because
I did
was
it.
me. That was me back 96, like I said earlier. But in that situation, the dude crashed. It was a slow speed crash, 35. His head hit the curb, and it was split open like a watermelon.
Seen it.
And I looked at it and I said, well, he must have been a big dumbass. Well, how was he riding that caused that? Now,
Somebody else hit
being
him.
almost 43, I'm thinking, yeah, I think I want to see my kids graduate school. I think I want to see them graduate college. I think I want to see them get married and see my grandkids. So I choose to wear one. But I do not wear the most safe helmet in the world. I wear a 3/4 helmet. It is DOT certified. A lot of times I wear my $100 goggles, and sometimes I just wear the $25 shield or whatever. And there's a lot of argument that guys will tell me, yeah, here it is. You say you wear a helmet and you believe in them, but when your face hits the pavement, you're not going to have a face left. Yeah, you're true. So I'm almost like halfway in between the two as far as what I practice. Today I wore a full face because it's freaking cold out.
I did not.
Yep.
So it is what it is, but the two arguments are very simply, the government shouldn't tell me what to do, and that there are topics regarding that in the Supreme Court. Like I said, regarding more than just abortion, several. This isn't a debate about abortion or anything. I'm just giving you an example. And then the other argument that is very staunchly held is, it's not our job to take care of you when you become a frickin' cucumber.
And both of you are very aware. And for you, those of you listeners out there, the reason seatbelt laws and helmet laws are in effect is about money. I'll tell you that. The government, it's not necessarily that the government wants to save your life. It's that it is billions and billions and billions of dollars in injuries and claims that could have been prevented. I'll tell you that. That's why the insurance industry is so involved in this shit.
And the states
Honestly,
that don't have them are lower in population, and they
Correct.
don't have the amount of claims.
Exactly.
You'll see that, like Idaho.
And they don't get federal funding.
Right.
So if a state does have a helmet law, NHTSA, the National Highway Safety Traffic Administration, gives them X amount of money a year to help with their traffic safety efforts. If you're a state that says, F you, we're not having helmet laws, the feds say we're not giving you shit then. That's the world we live in. It is about money.
Insurance lobbyists.
Insurance lobbyists. So, again, I don't want to pay for it though. So I'm okay with that. I agree. I don't want to be burdened. I'm already burdened with plenty of welfare and all the recipients of that kind of stuff that are abusing it. Not everybody, but the ones that are. I don't want to be burdened with more medical expenses of people. So, but again, I think we all agree the government shouldn't intrude on it. My caveat to that is as long as they're insured and it can be paid for, I'm okay with it.
If any of my brothers that are in our club want to ride lawfully without a helmet, I'm not going to intrude upon that. But if they ask me my opinion, I would tell them, okay, so if you're you're asking me for my opinion, I'm going to wear one. And primarily the reason is because I do not want somebody to have to explain to my loved ones or friends that this could have been all eliminated, because if he would have been wearing a helmet and when his head hit the ground and it bounced off the pavement, he would have survived if he had had a helmet. I don't want to deal with that. But if somebody else in my club decides to do that, then that's on them, and I will not be vocal to them or judge them for it. But I've also heard the argument, if you're wearing a half helmet, what's the point of even wearing a helmet?
Which is not true.
It's really not protecting. But
it is. I've seen collisions with half helmets, and it is.
Because it does. Because the new
not as
ones,
much as a full face, but it will.
But the new ones come back almost like the 3/4 in the back, and if you hit your head in the back.
Correct.
But
it offers some level of protection.
It does.
I crashed with a half helmet once and slid down the road on my back, and it bounced about 15 times, and it saved my ass.
Yeah. I'm not saying I believe in that. I'm just saying I've heard that. But, for me, on this trip, I could have went without it the entire time except for through Washington State. And the one time I tried it, that 150 miles, I was miserable. All I heard was wind noise, and I didn't hear my radio as well. Call me crazy, but I put the helmet back on, and the radio was nice and clear.
Yep, so aside from the safety factor.
I will say the opposite of that, personally, because I had never ridden without a helmet before this trip to Sturgis, and I rode without it for about 2 days while we were there.
It is awesome feeling. I'm not going to lie.
And I loved it. I loved every second of it, but I know you just can't do it.
I wish it wasn't dangerous.
Yeah, I just wish it was safe.
I remember Jakey when we were both probies, or he was a hang around and I was just a twinkle in the club's eyes, maybe. I don't know.
A feeling in my balls.
We went up above Cleellum, and I was wearing a half helmet, I think, or a 3/4. And he was wearing a full face, and he says, I want the freedom of that, but I wear a full face just because, I don't want to, I like the safety aspect and stuff like that. Well, he's learned to enjoy another type of helmet. In fact, the helmet he's wearing today, I gave him. And so for me, I like 3/4 helmets. Call me Evel Knievel or whatever old school hippie kind of helmet. I enjoy 3/4. I don't really care for full faces, but you know what? I take the risk of, if I wreck the wrong way, my nose is going to be in somebody's windshield.
No, good, man, good information. We're going to have to wind it down. And just for the listeners out there, I don't know if I alluded to it, but yeah, for years I wore, regardless of our opinions on laws, I think we beat that, but people want to know our opinions on that stuff, and that's cool. So I don't mind sharing them. For years and years, I wore 3/4. When I used to ride sports bikes, I wore full face. Then when I've ridden a Harley for many, many, many years, and I went to 3/4, and within the last year, I went back as I get older and wiser, and I see more things, and I realize I'm not invincible. I am back to a full face modular Schuber C3. Love it. Has internal Bluetooth and music. It is ECE, DOT rated, and all that kind of stuff. I do once in a while when I'm just running and I know that's stupid. You can argue all day. Most accidents occur with your house. I won't even get into that. But when I run to the grocery store and stuff, just out of pure ease, once in a while, I'll just throw the 3/4 on. But I will tell you, most of the time, 95% of the time now, I'm riding with a full face helmet, and I don't want to go back. Love it for touring and the fatigue and all that kind of stuff and the safety. So anyways, anything else, guys, before we should probably wind it down here.
Good episode.
Man, good stuff. You guys have been asking for that episode for a long time, and then Dar Cheng, of course, spurred me to go ahead and get it done. And it's awesome, guys. Good stuff. Call to action, guys. Don't forget about the app, guys. lawabidingbiker.com/app. It's for the Apple App Store, Google Play, App Store, Amazon Kindle, all that kind of stuff. It is free. However, it's not free. It's actually supported by our patrons. They're the ones and the reason that you have access to that app. It's awesome. You can get the show notes, the episodes, alerts right in there. You can call us right in from the app. Again, lawabidingbiker.com/app. Become a patron, lawabidingbiker.com/Patreon, and help support that app because we have to keep it developed and the code up to date and all that kind of stuff. And it is working so awesome. People are loving it, guys. How do they get a hold of us, BD Kane, if they want to call our hotline?
But they can call 509-731-3548.
Or an internet voicemail from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. And let's not forget, we're talking about all of our sites, but you would look a hella sexy wearing one of our shirts or having our bike rippers too.
Beating the women off with the stick.
Oh, yeah. And the clamshell. Well, that was last episode. Never mind. Okay. All right, guys. And lawabidingbiker.com/voicemail. Use the computers or speakers right in your computer from anywhere in the world. It is for free up to a 2-minute voicemail. Of course, you know, we played those in the past. And don't forget to get into that free email club, guys. lawabidingbiker.com/email club. We will shoot you an email when we come out with new free content. Rate us in iTunes or Stitcher Radio if you're listening via those apps. lawabidingbiker.com/iTunes or /Stitcher Radio. It helps bump us up in the rankings for searchability reasons so more bikers around the world can find us and become part of what we call the biker revolution. We hope it was informational. We hope it was entertaining. We hope it was infotaining. You both are looking at me like, are you serious?
I was like, hey, man, why don't you talk about these cool videos we got coming out?
Yeah, we do have some cool videos. All right, guys. Peace out. Thanks, guys, for being in the studio.
Peace.
Anytime.
I'm like a dog in heat. A freak without warning. I have an appetite for sex because Jake is so horny.
Because Jake is so horny. All right.
Got this.
Let's see. Recent searches.
Put in karaoke me so horny.
How do you spell karaoke?
Karoke.
And karaoke is Japanese for empty orchestra.
Holy shit, dude.
Why would you store that in your brain?
What the
you
fuck?
moron.
You're dumb. You're just fucking dumb.
I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care.
Let's see.
I got to get that as like a thing I can just push on my phone. Somebody at work's telling me stuff. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Yeah. See, if me and you both did this, we wrapped it and point and share different and then do stereo things, that'd be a freaking funny, like, B-roll or whatever roll. A-roll, A+ roll. Yeah, that looks
there
like,
it is.
There it is.
It's because I was spelling horny with an E, Horney instead of Horny.
So that probably does have the beginning.
I got to go turn something off. No, it doesn't. Where I played it right there is where the beginning is. These are just snippets. You got to buy them to get the whole song.
What do I get for $10?
Everything you want.
Everything?
Everything. Oh, don't do that, baby. Hold on to this.
I don't have the rest of it. I don't have that part on here. See, I think I'm missing a verse. Suck it to me. Hold on this, suck it to me.
Really, she'd had plenty of big dick. She just didn't want to. She wanted him to feel special.
Tubuku.
All right, what are we doing, boys? You let me know. Tell me what you want.
If you
we'll
think,
do it.
if you think that spending 99 cents,
I could care
and
less,
this would be a funny fucking thing. That
what are you gonna
whatever
do, wrap
you use
it?
it for, we're gonna wrap it.
Oh, okay, well, let me buy it. Hang on. I could care less, dude. That's all. Off.
We'll wrap it and then we'll figure something out. You can use it somehow. Jake and I are gonna have to look at each other and we're gonna have to like time it out where he sings certain spots and.
Yeah, I was gonna clean it up after the last one and give a little rhyme about how we love our girls.
Well, this isn't for this is just for him to use for all kinds of shit.
Okay. Yeah, I could care. You know how much music I buy for this business? I mean, this is nothing, dude. I'm always buying music. I could care less. Tell my wife scenes. Syndicate Sound Labs, hip hop instrumental, Me So Horny. Why is that on our iTunes? Don't worry about it. All right.
Purely business related.
Purely business. Here's the whole song.
Okay, let's hear it.
What do we get for $10? Everything you want. Everything. Everything. Oh.
Don't do that, baby.
Oh.
What gonna do?
Suck it to me. Oh. Be so horny. So
Okay, so tell me what the setup is here.
So just you just start playing, and then I will start rapping, and then I will go to him, and he will be following it. So we'll do like different lines, and then we'll do stuff in stereo, like the last sentence.
So you're going to do the whole song?
We're going to do the whole fucking song.
All right, here we go.
We'll start. Stereo will be I'm a dog in heat.
Yeah.
So when it starts there.
Here we go. All right, Lurch, we're going to start with the pre podcast for fun. Here we go.
what do we get for $10? Everything you want. Everything. Everything. Oh.
Don't do that, baby.
Oh.
What gonna do?
Suck it to me. Oh. Be so horny. So horny. Be so horny. Love you long time. Be so horny. So horny. Be so horny. Love you long time. Be so horny. So horny. Be so horny. Love you long time. Be so horny. So horny. Be so horny. Love you long time.
Sitting at home with my dick on hard. So got the black book for a freak to call. Picked up the telephone, then dialed the 7 digits. Said, yo, this Big Daddy baby, are you down with it?
I arrived at her house and knocked on the door, not having no idea what the night had in store. I'm like a dog in heat, a freak without warning, have an appetite for sex, 'cause Jake's so horny.
You're a freak.
Be so horny. So horny. Be so horny. Love you long time. Be so horny. So horny. Be so horny. Love you long time.
Girls always ask me why I fuck so much. I say, what's wrong, baby girl, with the quick ass nut?
Because
Just go.
And I won't tell your
and Mama,
dad. I know he'll be disgusted when he sees your pussy busted. Won't your mama be so mad if she knew I cracked that ass? I'm a freaking heat, a dog without warning. My appetite for sex goes me so horny.
This is so immature. But it's funny.
you can say I'm desperate, even call me perverted, but you say I'm a dog when I leave you fucking deserted. I play with your heart just like it's a game. I'll be blowing your mind while you're blowing my brains.
I'll be that man they call Georgie Pudding Pie. I fuck all the bitches and I make them cry. I'm like a dog in heat, a freak without warning. I have an appetite for sex 'cause of me so horny.
You guys killing me.
It's true you were a virgin until you met me.
I was the first to make you hot and wetty. You tell your parents that we're going out, never to the movies, just straight to my house. You said it yourself, you like it like I do. Put your lips on my dick and suck my asshole too.
That's just ridiculous.
I'm a freaking heat, a dog without warning. My appetite is sex, 'cause me so horny.
Rap like a true white guy. Just
Yeah, I got no rhythm. I'm the first to admit.
the epitome of white guy. Likely one of the most immature things we've ever done here at Law Abiding Biker Media. Oh my God. Good times though.